Hi, this is Lorraine, and I've been guided to create a video on the clairs, understanding the clairs. And this is complementary to the video on clearing, centering, and balancing your energy, because once you're in a balanced state, that's your most effective place to receive messages. So there are a number of clairs: clairaudience, clairvoyance, claircognizance, clairsentience, clairtangence, clairalience, clairgusta, and empathy. I believe that's all of them. So I'm just going to discuss what those are and how the messages can come in. The issue with doing this is it can come in so many different ways, not just the ways I'm talking about. And for each person, it's going to be different. But I'm going to talk about my experience as a foundation, a place to start from. Okay? So, claircognizance is a clear knowing. Clairsentience is a feeling that comes in the way of a knowing. And it's different from empathy in that empathy is a direct emotion. So if you're happy, I can feel your joy. If you're sad, I can feel your sadness. If you're anxious, I can feel your anxiety. As opposed to a feeling that comes in the way of a knowing. Like, I feel like you've been working too much and it would be a good idea to take a day off or to go on vacation or something like that. So they're similar, but they're not the same. There's clairvoyance, which is clear seeing. There's clairaudience, which is clear hearing. There's clairtangent, which you might know as psychometry. You touch something and you receive information. There's clairgustance, which is clear tasting, and clairalience, which is smelling. So claircognizance is just information comes in and you just know it. It's probably the one that's most uncomfortable to use or to trust. I was always very cautious with claircognizance when I first started receiving information, because it was very uncomfortable to say things with nothing really tangible other than I know it. But it's just a knowing that comes in. And over time, you learn to trust it. When you pay attention to the information that comes in and how you utilize that information, you learn to trust it. Clairsentience, that feeling, is probably my most comfortable clair. A feeling that comes in the way of a knowing. My body has always spoken very clear to me from a very young age, and I've always trusted that. I just didn't know it was clairsentience. And when I didn't listen, it was always very clear. So that feeling, when I have a feeling about someone or something that comes into my body, I've always had an easy time trusting that information. But it's still not very tangible. So it can be a little nerve-wracking when you first start to trust that that information coming in is true. I think I can say that about all the clairs. I think I could probably say that about all the clairs, but the claircognizance and clairsentience might be probably the most challenging for people. Clairvoyance is clear seeing. So clear seeing, it can be a vision in your mind's eye, or it can be a physical manifestation. Physical manifestations are pretty profound. I don't know if a lot of people have that experience. I have had those experiences. They're very undeniable, and often do not come during a reading. Physical manifestations are always, in my case, personal. They're about messages for me. But outside of that, when I'm engaging the world or when I'm doing readings, visions always come in what people call the mind's eye. And the mind's eye, the best way to describe that is like daydreaming. So if you're daydreaming about a vacation, or you're daydreaming about, something you've done in the past that was fun, or anything that you think about in your mind, that is in your mind's eye. So often I'll get information that comes into my mind's eye, and it's just there. It happens when I'm doing readings all the time. But unless you're utilizing the clairs consciously, it's hard to discern how the information's coming in. So I would encourage you always, when you're meditating and you're receiving messages, to try to figure out how those messages are coming in, or pay attention to how those messages are coming in, so you can start discerning how the messages are coming in. And once you have that information down, you can just let it go, because it doesn't matter. But I feel it's important to understand how that information is coming in, so you have some ability to discern that these are in fact intuitive messages, they have value, and you can track what's coming in and how it's benefiting you. I just feel that's super important, just from personal experience. So just like you have that experience within your mind's eye, we have clairaudience, which is, I call it in your inner ear, right? In your mind's ear. I don't know how to put it, but clairaudience is almost like reading a book, but there are no words. And it's different from clairvoyance, it's different from claircognizance, it's different from clairsentience. It's different from all the other clairs, but it's very clear when that information comes in. Often when I have information come in, I'll start writing in my journal, and it's just a few thoughts, and then all of a sudden I'll look and it's 10 pages in. And that writing, when I'm continuing to write, they call it automatic writing, but to me that information is coming in through clairaudience, and I'm just listening and I'm writing. I'm listening and I'm writing. I've also had energies come in and speak right at my ear where I can hear it. I can hear their voice, like my mom calling me across the house. I never really liked that. I did not like that. And so when it first started happening, I just cut it out. I said, please don't communicate with me in this way. I don't like it. It's very unsettling. I don't have that nerve-wracking feeling anymore, but in the beginning it was very unsettling. Literally, you can have what sounds like someone standing right next to you talking in your ear. I don't believe it always has to be that way. It might even sound like from across the room. It could sound like a whisper. But it was, for me, always right there. So you can literally hear a voice, or it can come in that way that's very soft, and it almost feels like reading a book, or like someone's writing you a letter and you're reading that letter before. That's coming through telepathically, right? It's just coming through in your mind. You're not reading the letter, but you can hear that letter. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. Clairtangents, I used to do some meetings where we would have psychometry readings, and people would come and give us their stuff, and we'd just read the energy from that item. So psychometry or clairtangents is just touching something and receiving messages from that item. Clairgustance. is clear tasting, and you can, that also, it can always be in like your mind's eye. You can feel like you're tasting something, or you can literally taste it. You can literally taste the gandule rice that my grandmother made that I loved. I can literally taste it even though I'm not eating it. That would be an example of clairgustance. Clairalience, the smelling. That, my dad always visits me, and I can smell the cleaner from the memory care place that he lived in before he passed away. It's always a sign that my dad is with me, and I can literally smell it. And the first time it happened, I just looked around and I was like, why am I smelling my dad? Why am I smelling that? That's the same smell at Dad's memory care place. And it took me a minute to, sorry. It took me a minute to make the connection that my dad was with me. So, I'm gonna also talk about mediumship really quickly. It's not a clair. Mediumship is a term that's used to describe communicating with someone who's passed. And some people are more gifted in mediumship. That's why there's a special, I guess, or a separate category for it. But anybody who is doing mediumship is using the clairs to communicate with that person that has passed. So they're not doing anything different. They're just more skilled in communicating with people who have passed. So mediumship is a means to communicate with the people who have passed, and the medium uses the clairs to do that communication. Another thing is auras. So I read auras also. When I'm reading an aura, I'm also using the clairs to get that information. So all these different subcategories of healing or psychic phenomenon, or whatever you want to call it, Reiki, there's so many different things people are doing now. All the tools, the foundation, the tools that people are using are rooted in the clairs. Everything. When you're shifting and moving energy around, you're using your consciousness to do that. And you're channeling that energy through your energy field. We do that through our consciousness, and we do it through our senses. And that means we are always using the clairs. Okay, the clair is the foundation for any type of energy work. And it's also the foundation for telepathic communication. And the way I differentiate doing a psychic reading, let's say, versus a telepathic communication, when you're doing a reading and you're sitting with someone, you're channeling information. They're asking me a question, I'm channeling that information, I'm waiting to receive information, and I'm sharing that information. Telepathic communication is immediate. The second you walk up to someone, or you don't even have to walk up to someone. The second you receive an information about whatever that information entails, that's a telepathic communication. It can be from someone across the room, it can be from someone across the planet, someone on another planet. The communications are immediate. And the more fluent you become with the clairs, the better you become, and maintaining clear-centered and balanced energy, the more fluent you become in receiving and discerning those messages, where they're from and what they're for. Okay. I think I'm going to stop there. Thank you.